Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel Talks with Thee. I remain yours truly, Mrs. Dota Otu, welcoming you to yet another interesting and exciting episode on this channel. Thank you so much for always being there. And congratulations to all of us, we made it thus far. And you know what? This year is loaded with benefits for you and I. I want you to make your daily demands that this year must deliver unto you your desires, your expectations, your dreams and anticipations. God bless you. God honor you. All right, people, welcome back. On today's episode, I want us to discuss a topic that I am superly excited about and passionate too about. And what is that topic? That topic is simply embracing your unique narrative. Simply means embracing the uniqueness of your own narrative, of your own personal journey. Life itself is a journey. And people, you have been on this journey. And your story is not my story. And my story is not your story. And no story of yours will be lost on you because there is always something to gain from your story. So right now, I'm asking us, take away the covering from your face. Do not be ashamed of your journey. Do not be ashamed of your own journey. It means taking charge of your life and accepting who you are. Not being ashamed of who you are, no. Not being ashamed of your journey thus far, no. Not doubting yourself and not even seeking the validations of people. Your story is unique to you. Your story is tailor-made. It suits only you. And if you don't tell your story the way it ought to be told, some other people will give your story a wrong narrative. Do not allow the world to describe you. Do not allow people to tell your story because they will not be able to capture your emotions. They will not be able to capture your thought pattern. They will not even be able to capture your feelings per time. It is only you that went through your life by yourself. So tell your story. Why am I encouraging that? We learn from our past. Your story have a lot of things to offer. We learn from our past. You see the pattern of your life. You can now see how far God has brought you. Though your beginning was small, that's what the word of God says. Though your beginning was small, your latter day shall greatly increase. What does that mean? It doesn't matter how you start, but so you know that you will not remain in that spot. It doesn't matter how you start, whether in lack, in want, in deprivation, so you know that it will not always be like that. So don't be ashamed of your story. Don't want to be like anybody else. No. Don't desire that your story will sound like anybody else's story. No. We are not all from the same background. Melenderia maha pro sekataya fareahusha mengedi brado zola bahasha lehinderebo sataya. We are not all from the same background, people. We did not all face the same conditions growing up. We were not privileged the same way. We came from different backgrounds. We survived different conditions growing up. I don't know your story, but I know that it was not rosy from the beginning when I was growing up. I had a large family of so many children. My father was not particular about any one of us. If you were going to be something else, you force yourself to become. Yes, that was a pattern in my home. Growing up, my father will not sit you down to encourage you to be a great man or a great woman. You will encourage yourself. That's how I grew up. We're not giving pep talks on how to become anything. No, you will desire to become and you force yourself. You will push yourself to become. I don't know your story. We were exposed in an environment where you had to make your choice whether to be a good girl or to be a bad girl. Growing up was not so rosy. But decisions were made, choices were made, and that was what formed us. What am I saying? You cannot run away from your story. No, you cannot. Your story gives you strength to face the future because see how far God has brought you. Why should you be ashamed of your story? Don't be ashamed of your story. Oh, You were once a pauper. Tell the story the way it is. Tell your story the way it is. That is the only way it can make sense to even the generations coming to know that once upon a time, my mother, my father, my relatives went through this and they came through. David recalled his story. He said, the God that delivered me from the lion and the bear, that same God will deliver me from this uncircumcised Philistine. He had a story to recall. Your story is such that you'll be able to recall, draw strength from, draw experience from. So why are you ashamed of your story? Why do you want people to give a wrong narrative to your story? You are alive, you are not telling your story. You are pretending, faking your story, faking your life. No, you don't do that. You are depriving generations, even yet unborn, to be blessed by your story. Your story will bless people that you never will imagine will be blessed by. A lot of people are packaging themselves. They have not heard authentic stories. When they hear your story will change the mindset of people to have hope in God and to know that our God is a progressive God. He works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He's a God of increase, but he takes his time. He's a God of process. Your story is part of your process. You cannot jettison it. You cannot pretend that it never happened. You cannot pretend that that is not how it is. Your story must not sound like everybody else's story. Before I go further, I want to tell you how I used to tell my story growing up. And I never knew that a day will come like this where I will come to the screen and share my life. While I was growing up, in the evenings, the family gathers together and my mother would say, everybody tell your story. And you know, there are a lot of folk tales. Everyone have one story about the tortoise and the lion and whatever. Everyone is telling their stories. But when it comes to my turn to tell my story, I discovered that I don't know how to rehearse other people's stories. I discovered that I just begin to tell the story based on what I see around me. I tell you people, that was my pattern. I never knew that God was going to use it to teach me something today. When I see someone carrying a bucket of water, I will put that in my story. And Peter carried a bucket of water. If I see someone did anything, and any movement around me is going to be inside my story. And mommy raised her hand up. She wanted to slap me. And then I dodged. Everything will be inside my story. And they gave me granite. And when I ate the granite, I needed more. It will be in my story. And daddy came and we all ran. It's in my story because I saw daddy actually came and we all ran. Everything that I see was what I was adding to my story. What does that tell us? Your story is made up of what you see, what you perceive, what you understood, what you feel, and what you went through. Is it not beautiful for you to share your story? Because am I still that little girl? No, I have grown up. Am I still that little girl sitting on the floor and telling stories? No, I have grown up. You are not going to be where you used to be. So don't be ashamed of where you have been. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Most of us are made strong because of where we have been. But that's not where we are anymore. We have moved. But you cannot forget your past. Own your story. Tell your story the way no one else can. And when we say tell your story, own your story, your strength, embracing your unique narrative, what are we saying? We are saying that author your life. And somebody will say, is it not God that is the author and the finisher of our faith? That is our faith. I'm talking about your life. Why am I saying author your life? It's because as a man thinketh, so is he. Anytime you are thinking, you are writing something about your life. Because after that you have thought, you will take actions. And that becomes part of your story. So be careful of what you are thinking because you are writing a story. Even this present day, you are still writing your story. Your story is endless until you close your eyes on this planet Earth. So you have to know that there is a responsibility on you to write your story by yourself the way it is. So make right choices. Think right thoughts. Because if you don't think right thoughts, your story continues from there. So author your life by writing your own story. It means taking charge of yourself, accepting yourself, and believing in yourself to know that your past does not define you, but that your past will help to structure your future. When you are writing your own story, when you are owning your own story, when your story is becoming your strength, it means that you recognize your past, but you know fully well that your past does not define you presently, but it helps to structure your future. When you are writing your own story, it means that you are not allowing people to give a wrong perception of you. You are speaking for yourself. Someone will say, speak out. You are speaking out, saying it the way it is. That's why very intelligent children will go around old people and begin to ask them to tell them about your life. And they will begin to talk from when they were born. You see those unique stories, how they will walk barefooted. I remember when my husband was recalling to me how he grew up. It humbles me every time he talks about his childhood. How they will walk long distance on barefoot to a farm, how they will farm. They will not eat some of the things they harvested from the farm, and then how they will walk back to the extent that your foot becomes like the sole of a shoe because it became very hard. When he tells the story of how he used to sleep on bare floor and he will cry because he will be like alone in the world. How is he going to ever make it alive? And he grew to the extent where he brought, he took in dry grasses and sewed it together to make a foam. That was his first foam he lied on. And how that he began to grow. From there, he brought his younger one to stay with him. And today, look at the story of my husband. What am I saying? Everybody have a story. And he keeps telling you, his uncle will tell him how that he should buy newspapers and read them so that he will know what is happening. His foundation, that was his story. What is your story? What are you ashamed of? Let people know you for who you are. Don't fake who you are. Who are you trying to impress? Don't fake who you are. When you are telling your story, it means that you are in control. You are taking control of your life. Not that God is not in control of your life, but you are taking control of the narrative of your life. You are not allowing life to control you. You know what? What you are not ashamed of will not bring you shame. Yes. What you are not ashamed of will not bring you shame. What you are not afraid of will not harm you. It's all in your mind. When you are ashamed of something, then it will bring you shame. Why are you ashamed of your past? Your past does not define you. Your past does not define you. Rather, you gain experience from your past. And then your past comes with a lot of things that you have to deal with. Yes, but it has made you a better person. It has made you to make better decisions, because the truth be told, our stories are formed from the decisions we made, from the choices we made. So going forward, you know that you want your story to sound better, to be more inspiring, so you make right choices. That's what it means. So don't ever be ashamed of your story, because your story is unique and the world is waiting to hear your story. I am waiting to hear your story. I am waiting to be inspired by your story, because your story will inspire people to know that indeed there is God. Writing your own story and accepting your own story and gaining strength from it means that you are not even ashamed to own up to your mess. You are not even ashamed to even expose your vulnerability. You are not ashamed to even show your vulnerability. That you are vulnerable from time to time, and while you are growing up or whatever it is, you are not ashamed. You are not ashamed of the wrong choices you have made, because you gained knowledge from them. That's what it means when we say own your story. Tell your story the way it is, because your story is your strength. That's what it means. Why is it important for us to tell our story? Number one, it's an act of courage and authenticity. When you tell your story, it shows you are courageous, and it shows you are authentic, you are real. It shows your uniqueness when you tell your story. It shows courage. You are able to face your past and speak about your past. so that you will be truly recognized and appreciated of the person you have become today. Can you hear that? I will respect you more when I hear your story. Don't fake it. Don't make me feel that you have always had it good and make everybody feel you have never had a downtime. No. Own up your mess in the past. When you tell your story, it means you are courageous and it shows your authenticity. Telling your story too, one thing that makes it important for you to tell your story is that it shows your personal growth. You cannot talk about things that you have not outgrown, you see. So when you're talking about things in your past, it means that you have grown beyond that. So it shows your personal growth when you share what you have been through. It also allows you to live life on your own terms. You know who you are, so you apply yourself to life. You know your story. You know the pattern, how God has moved with you over time. So you live your authentic self. And it also makes room for deeper connections. I'm talking about why it is important for us to own our stories, tell our stories, and draw strength from our stories. It makes for deeper connections because who you are came from somewhere. You came from somewhere. You translated from somewhere, you see. You cannot become all beautiful, all sufficient, all of a sudden. No, you grew into it. So when you embrace the fact that you have a story, it makes for you to be able to build deeper relationship, because from your story, you have learned patience. From your story, you have learned generosity. You know how it is for you to be in want and someone comes through for you. So when you're in relationship, you are more open to make life easier for that person in relationship with you because you have learned from your past. So it's important that you share your own story. You gain strength from your own story and you embrace your authentic narrative. How can you own your story? How can your story become your story and your strength? How do you embrace the unique narrative of your own story, of your life? Number one, the way forward is for you to acknowledge your journey, the highs and the lows, the errors, the mistakes, the wrong decisions, and the happy times. The times where you won, the times where you lost. Acknowledge, don't falsify it. Don't deny it. Don't be in self-denial. That's what I'm saying. Don't be in self-denial. Own up to the highs and the lows of your life. So recognize that all these experiences you have gone through in the past have made you who you are today. You gain strength from your past. You gain strength from your experiences. If you did something wrong in the past, you have gained knowledge on how to do it better in the future. So you will also recognize that your past experiences have made you, have contributed to the person you have become today. So give credit also to your story, to your past. Because whether you like it or not, nothing is lost on you. If you failed, you learned how not to fail next time. And if you won, you learned how to keep winning. So there's always something to learn from your story. Your story will indeed inspire the world, I tell you. Give yourself some credit. How you survived it. Give yourself some credit. Do you know what you dealt with? You didn't go for therapy. You didn't go for counseling. You dealt with it and you came out this way you are. My goodness, I salute you. You have done well. I celebrate your story, even yet untold, because I know you will say it one day. And please feel free. Send me your comments. Share your stories with me. Whatever questions you want to ask about me, ask. I will sincerely let you know, because I know there are a lot for us to unravel. Our lives are in layers. Every year is a layer, you know that? Because every year you encountered a lot of things and the next year comes another layer. So your life and my life, they are in layers. If we just unravel them, there are a lot of wisdom to gain, a lot of knowledge to gain, a lot of strength to gain. We can be renewed when we know how far God has brought us. Our faith can be more strengthened when we recognize the fact that if not for God, where would we have been today? The Bible says, for your mercies and compassion faileth not. That is why we are not consumed. So when you recall your story, you will see the mercies and the compassions of God that has worked for you. That's why you are where you are. You would have been a forgotten story. I remember my story of childbirth. All the times I went through the theater to have my children, it was like between life and death. And God saw me through. I cannot pretend not to have issues when I was trying to have my babies, because all my babies came through CS. I labored for days. I suffered. I agonized. But God brought me through. These are some of your stories. We have stories about our children. How our children were behaving at a time and what they have become today. That's part of your story. Do not pretend as if everything has always been rosy with you. Nobody is willing to be inspired by a fake story. Tell your story the way it is, and let the world be inspired by it, and let God take glory from your story. Tell your story. You are the one that is setting the terms of engagement going forward. You know that this is my story. You cannot distort my story. And this is what I believe in, and this is what I want to become. You see, your story has given you the boldness to know how to position yourself in life going forward. Listen to me. People from very, very challenging backgrounds, make sure that they don't go back to such life. Make sure that your children don't experience such lives. What have you learned? You have set the terms of engagement because you have gained strength from your story, from your past. So that's all I've come to tell us. Please own your story and allow the world to be inspired by your story. Don't be ashamed of your story. Don't wait for people's validation of your story. Don't tell stories that people want to hear. Tell your story the way it is, because it's only when it is true and it's unique that it can inspire people and indeed give you the strength to even move forward. That's the only time it can inspire people and be a blessing to as many that hears your story. Thank you so much. So this year, tell your own story. Going forward, make sure that you are doing things that are adding up to your story. Going forward, make sure that everything you do is going to add up to your story, because whether you like it or not, one day you will tell that story. So be careful of the things you do. Be careful of the things you allow, because one day, those things that you allow, those decisions you made, those choices you made are all going to add up to your story. So what will your story be like? So that's what I leave in your hands. Right now, begin to write a new chapter of your story, of your life, to share with the world. God bless you. God honor you. This is me saying thank you so much for always being here. Please do like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Let's continue to be a blessing to as many that comes across these videos. God bless you. Thank you so much. Until next time. Bye.